Last season, this race had a few safety cars and a total of 11 DNFs. We hope we don't see a repeat of that. We're glad to welcome you along for the stream for 25 laps around this circuit. 3 DRS zones, a street circuit, a tight pit lane. The walls are as close to the drivers as they could be. Round 2 of the season will be getting underway in just a bit. However, we must remind you, last week, round 1, Cookie won it. And he's attempting to take back-to-back poles and wins for a team that had achieved their 75th all-time in this tier last week. Not only that, but I am Ryan Searles, your commentator to call the action tonight. Thank you to all those who've tuned in this evening. Alongside me to call the action once again is Ironwolf, and I'm glad to have you back once again to call a race which will be filled with tons of thrilling and spilling action.
It's definitely good to be here, especially for the round 2 of an exciting 26 race calendar for season 10 of RPL F1 Tier 1. As you mentioned, I watched last week the Cookie winning it in Bahrain. Basically the only driver to go back-to-back at season openers at the same track of Bahrain. Did it in season 7, he did it again for season 10. So, oh wait, no, season 8 it was. I might have that mixed up. But anyways, it's good for that as well.
I did the same thing last week.
But here we are, round 2, Saudi Arabia. It's going to be quite fun. I'm not going to lie. I'm looking forward to it.
You know, I'm glad they let us in considering what country we're in. But I must say, I'm glad to be here with you again, especially for this track since you were here last season. And not only that specifically, but specifically more so as well. The drivers in this race we have some headlines, and we'll go over some of them now. Some of them will wait till qualifying to do so. I want to get to some of the bigger ones though. Zakaria, he's making his return for the first time since Hungary in Tier 2 when he had the issues with Bulgogi. He made a Tier 1 start that same weekend in Qatar, October 21st. That was the last time he raced. He was under a season ban and served a race ban for the first round. As for him, he returns. Gagi had a qualifying ban because it happened in Tier 2. Zakaria did not because that's not the same tier he races in full-time. He's here for Williams this season. Jacob is making his return. He has not made a start in this game cycle. He'll become the 60th different driver to make a start in the F1 Tier 1 game cycle for this tier. He's returning, and he's with Alpine. Also, one other driver making a return this evening is Polo God. He did some F2 comms for Season 18 at Zandvoort. He was the Season 5 Round 2 pole sitter, so he's familiar with being up front in Round 2. He's in the McLaren tonight and learning no ABS, so that's something that's different since the last time he's been in this tier. And the one other thing with him that I need to note is he did round 3 for both Season 17 F2 and Season 9 Tier 2, but the last time he raced, well, similar to Saudi Arabia last season, barely any finishers. The race in Tier 1 that had the least amount of finishers. Season 7, Round 6, Baku, and you were on comms for that race as well, Titan, I believe.
We've just seen the stewards giving the carbohydrate.
All right, well, it looks like we're all loading up into Q1, and, well, things are going to get a little bit dicey because unless they show up later on, one of the Williams, which is Zakaria, and the other Ferrari of Will, they're not here yet. So,
Fair point.
I'm not sure what's going to be going on in that regard.
Will is in the Ferrari. He got a podium here last season, Titan. And the other thing as well is Lewis Piper is racing for Mercedes, I believe, with Luke missing. He's Aston full-time. That should be fun to see on what happens there. The other thing as well, in terms of our headlines, you see the current drivers in the grid now. We have Stenner making a change from the Ferrari Academy to the Red Bull Academy. He'll be racing tomorrow in the Formula Endurance tier, which is brand new to RPL, which is going to be on Sundays, 7 p.m. UK time. Grandpa switches from the Alpine Academy to the Red Bull Academy. He's now been in 3 different academies this game cycle, which is very interesting indeed. Last week we had Ferrari reserve signings, and a lot of people said a lot of stuff about them with that. Well, Red Bull took their turn at that this week. They signed a ton of reserves as well. And one other thing with that as well, as I'm going to turn down the game volume, Grandpa is reserving AlphaTauri tonight with the reserve of, with him reserving with the full-time driver Formula Cringe, who made his debut last week, missing it. So with those drivers out, the drivers who ticked no for tonight and are missing include Luke, KVS, Ads, Formula Cringe, Minico for Haas, Beatnik, and Jack Miles.
And looks like we are going to have our 19th driver showing up. It's going to be Hunted from the Alpine Academy. He is going to be filling in for Zakaria because Zakaria showed the event. Now, that is going to mean that Hunted is going to be sitting out a qualifying because he was a last-minute reserve change. And, yeah, so now we're just missing one driver. That being Ferrari, the Ferrari of Will. And I think it's a bit of a close because if Will doesn't show up, Ferrari's going to be going by themselves with Josh. And I think if I was the Ferrari Academy team principal, George, who's in this session, he'd probably be scrambling, going like, okay, I need to get someone in here like that. I don't want Red Bull to pull away.
Yeah, for sure. I hear you on that one. So qualifying happens later in the day, but not as late as the race does in terms of track time. We get to see this track with a little bit of light before the night lights come on fully and come into full effect. We're going to watch Grandpa, who is coming through the first sector, the first driver on a lap. Here he comes through the S section, which is a tricky section where you couldn't easily invalidate Grandpa onto that curb. That curb usually in the past games has been one that you could go on. You can't really go on it too much this game, or else you might end up like Mick Schumacher did when he crashed in real life there. This is another section where it ends up tricky. Drivers have tried to go side by side here the last couple of seasons. Sometimes it ends in a wall, other times it doesn't. Some will have to back out. Another section tricky with track limits, and very tricky on the rear right there as you saw Grandpa slide. The DRS zone used to be at that old straight we were talking about where Schumacher had an off. Now it is where Grandpa is going, the DRS zone, and comes to the sector split for a 0.9, and here he comes to this section, which used to be much easier to take, but is much harder to take now, and here he comes into the final 2 corners, where a lot of DRS games will be played tonight.
Absolutely, DRS will be playing into effect. I mean, with this track with Jeddah, it's a bit of a fickle mistress. I mean, our first event that we've had at Jeddah, it got canceled because of glitches. And the very next season, we had probably one of the wildest crashes in existence, courtesy of, well, he's now an Aston Martin, of Wavy, when he went tumbling and flying after a crash. That was in season 6. I mean, literally, that one almost made me die laughing on that one.
I know.
I feel bad. It was whack, but it was wild. And then last season, and who could forget last season, when Scyther and TB had a brawl literally to the line, and it was TB that came out on top, just Scyther. So, I mean, some days Jeddah can be a bit screwy. Other days it can provide phenomenal racing action, and I'm looking forward to see what kind of action is going to go on in this event, as well as Barney just sets his fastest lap for Q1, 27.9.
Yes, we're finding out on the banker laps what drivers are finding out in the circuit, because it's obviously going to get darker. We have the drivers talking about, why is it on dusk and not realistic? Well, TB, to answer that question for you, it's going to get darker throughout the whole session, and it takes a little bit for that to happen. You see Korsman doing a 31.8 in the first sector. We'll watch his lap, but we want to talk about some things in regard to previous races, like you were just doing right there. TB's won the last 2 races here. Scyther, who's a no-show as well tonight, which he didn't click X on the attendance, so that's why I didn't mention his name. Paulo God's in for him. Scyther's got a podium every time we've had a race here. And when I mean a race here, I don't mean a canceled one, which I believe you said it was a season apart, Wavy's flip and the glitch one, but I think it was the same season though, because it was season 5, the same season that Imola and Portimao were put on the calendar toward the end of the season. And that same season, you have drivers like Searles who were in that race. Searles would have won that race if it was awarded points. You had Polo God who was in that race, and he says to me whenever he ended up figuring out he was racing, this is a track he has a love and hate relationship with, as Korsman goes fastest.
And I think another thing that's really wild is that quite a lot of these drivers that you see here in this field, like Bourbon and Paulo, Hunted, the Chiller, Wavy, Surge, TB, these are basically like, and against like some of the other guys here as well, like Cam, Shanghai, Grandpa, Cookie, and others. I had to put it like that. I mean, you got a good chunk of the group that's like some like the OG old school drivers that have been around for multiple seasons, and then you have some of the newer guys that have like a season or two on their record. So basically, it's like a battle of OG versus new school, and I actually like this kind of thing. I mean, I was just on board with Jacob when he just did his lap 27.8. Mentioned earlier, back in RPL racing after having to serve a season ban in season 8. That's why he was not around in season 8. Now, Jacob does have 2 wins to his credit, and I'm curious to see how well he will do in an Alpine, because those 2 wins, he was in the Ferrari.
That is very true. The thing I think of, you said it's a battle of, new versus old drivers. I look at the fact that I feel like more drivers tonight are on Xbox than previous races, because it's more so of a battle between, I'd say, Xbox versus PC / PS and Steam. I mean, there's not really anybody on PlayStation or Steam, but you have everyone else on PC. And obviously Hunted is serving the qualifying ban that he is going to have for coming in late. But yeah, you make a good point there. And I think, I don't remember, I don't have the stat officially down, but someone was mentioning how it's been a while since the podium had consisted of 3 Xbox drivers. And, I mean, if you think about it, last week had 3 Xbox drivers on it. It's just 2 of the drivers switched to PC most recently, and that was Cookie and Scyther. A lot of these drivers had started on Xbox and switched over. Scyther being one of them, Cookie being one of them. Luke ended up doing it for the first time last week and had no setup on, and still finished right behind his teammate TB, who was going through the first sector last week in Bahrain.
Yeah, as you were just mentioning it, I was just on board with Wavy. He got real out of the final corner and clocked the outside wall, lost a good swing, still managed to put in a 28.9, which is 5th fastest. But I think if he didn't clock that wall, he would have been he probably would have been right behind his teammate of Barney. But I mean, literally, Wavy, the car just got completely evil on him out on a corner, but still managing to put in a P5 at the moment is actually a good showing of resilience from Wavy.
TB is coming to complete his lap, and he slides and he hits the front wing that was on the racing line right there as well, that someone had broke previously. Coming through that section, comes to the line, 2nd fastest, should put him safely through. TB, who's won the last 2 races here, had one of them in a Ferrari, the other in a Red Bull, and this time he's in a Mercedes, so he has a lot of things to look forward to in terms of the circuit specifically. It was Lewis Piper, his teammate, for tonight, who has just started a lap. Let's go on board with this turn 1, turn 2 tricky section. Cookie comes through to go fastest in Q1. He did that last week as well. Now comes through turn 4, Lewis Piper does. This is another section where it's tricky. That inside wall, you used to have a little bit more leeway with it. Now you don't. This track has got tighter in some areas, but more leeway in other areas. However, you can't really say it's got too much leeway because of the curbing. You used to be able to use the curbing a lot more. Now you really can't as much in certain areas. As here he comes through the bank section which feels like the twisty sections of Zandvoort and Imola and Mugello, a lot of racetracks like that, and even Portimao with that section in place. And I'll give it away to you as he comes to the sector split. He is looking like he is pushing the limits to where he can try to set a lap time inside the top 4.3. We saw Korsman, I believe, or Jacob do a 0.9 maybe, a little faster than that. Teammates going to give him a slipstream. We'll be seeing a lot throughout the night of this with Q2 and Q3. Drivers giving slipstreams. It's going to be super powerful around here. We mentioned the DRS games and we mentioned slipstream.
Yeah, here comes Lewis Piper coming across the line. That help from his teammate is going to put him 5th fastest, though, only 2/10 behind his teammate, but still pretty good showing for the Mercedes. And I mean, what's about with Mercedes is that they're putting on good consistent fights so far in this game cycle. And what's interesting is that on your end, from what I'm seeing on the streams of Tier 2, Mercedes right is currently, in a sense, dominating the Tier 2 section right now. And I wouldn't be surprised if maybe TB and Piper will be putting on a good showing later on.
I mean, I can't really say dominating being the right word for me, in my personal opinion, for what I've seen. But what I've seen is if you get a fast enough driver for that car, like Owen, they can outperform it. And Lewis Piper got some podiums for McLaren. TB is a proven champion here in this league, and he outperformed the Alpine a couple times last season. So, you know, maybe it's not necessarily domination because Wavy struggled to score a point. He has had good pace. He's not been right up there, but from what I am seeing is you saw Serge go 10th fastest and Cam now start to lap. What I did see, though, from that team specifically in Tier 2 is if they have, I mean, certain circuits will be beneficiary to them, as we saw last season, Canada and Hungary being 2 of those, and Singapore as well, and Monza with the wet conditions. If you have a fast enough driver for it who can outperform cars, and TB did that in the Alpine, then they can get up there and win races. With this grid, though, I think it's a little trickier to do it on merit, though. I think last season they got, what, 3 wins? 1 with Ads, 1 with Luke, and 1 with Josh. In Canada, Josh did it on penalties. Luke did it in the wet. That was more on merit. And Ads did his on merit as well. So, I mean, could they get 3 wins this season? Maybe with an extended calendar, but I don't think they would be they'll be dominating. I think if those 2, Lewis Piper and TB, work together like that, though, they could definitely spoil if Cookie and Korsman just, you know, sit together all race and, you know, end up making mistakes.
I completely agree with you. And by the looks of it, we got a couple of people back, retiring from their session. The top 4, they're definitely good enough to get through. There's about 4 minutes left in this Q1 session. Cam's just about to cross the line, get his improved time in, and he slips in just 300s behind his teammate in P11. At the moment right now, it is Shanghai, Wavy, and Red Fire in the 3 of this Q1 session.
So Barney said, in the chat, by the way, he said it's so hard to see the brake boards in the light. And yeah, for drivers who have line off in this league, it's not a lot of them, but there are some of them who do use line off, or just simply focus on that. That is something that will affect some of these guys in terms of, I would say, wanting to kind of maximize everything they can. Bourbon retires, he's P8. It's really that P9 area on down who may have to go out again, but it's mostly where Polo God is at and downwards. Polo God has not done an RPL race with no ABS since, at least, if he has ever done it, his FRA days, from what he was talking about, from what I remember. And it's crazy to think how he was at one point in the same esports team as Ronhar, who's now going on to dominate esports. So yeah, Polo God being down there, that's expected with him coming back and, you know, coming out of league racing retirement for a couple of races and potentially full time on the next game. That's where we're gonna have to watch out for people potentially being eliminated.
Very true. Looks like looks like some people are coming out for some more laps. I see both the AlphaTauris currently out there. Now, one of them I'm currently on the broadcast camera is Grandpa. Now, one thing I think is pretty interesting about Grandpa is last season in Tier 2, he was basically up there fighting with the championship leaders. And, I mean, even though he came up just against Hunted, he put on one tremendous fight in Tier
Yes.
2. And, I mean, and he had wins in the McLaren. He did pretty good in that McLaren car, and I mentioned it before. I mean, Grandpa, he had some time in Ferrari a while back. Wasn't performing up to the standards that the Ferrari team principals didn't think was beneficial. But then when he moved to McLaren, he just really shined on it. So I'm thinking maybe Grandpa just benefited from different types of cars, certain types of cars instead.
Very true.
But now here he is in Tier 1 in an AlphaTauri. I'm just curious to see what he is going to try to improve on as he starts his time lap.
Shanghai is getting a slipstream from the car in front. That is the Haas, in fact, of either Groggers or Redfire, who's wanting to start their lap. Everyone else from 12th on down, out on track. Cam retired in P11, thinking he's safe, and so did the rest of the top 8. Barney's back out on track. Shanghai was improving in the first sector. We'll find out if he ends up improving the lap itself. The final corner, which you saw in real life, Max Verstappen 2 years ago crash out in qualifying. And here comes Shanghai across the line, who's going to be 15th, just barely safe. But that may be just what knocks him out if any of the bottom 3 end up improving. Wavy's the one who's on a lap improving, comes across the line, and he will improve. Last week he was out in Q1. This week he's through into Q2. So Shanghai is out unless he gets going for another one. And it looks like in this current moment, he has backed out.
Yeah, so Shanghai is going to be one of the ones eliminated
Grandpa
from
invalidated.
Q1. Yeah, Grandpa's invalidated. And speaking about with invalidations, Sector 1 and a couple of corners in Sector 2, do not be surprised to see invalidations happen. Next up is going to be Florian. It looks like Barney didn't make it to the line in time, so he still stays in the P9. Wavy, I think, should be okay and be able to stay through. But now with Grandpa, he has to. Now the only thing he has to be worried about is Groggers or Red Fire going to knock him out? Florian goes P7 in the AlphaTauri. Very nice.
That is a pretty good lap. So now, Grandpa is very much at risk. Groggers comes through here into the final couple of corners. Now he's going to hit turn 27. Groggers raced here last season, and now, coming out of the final corner, reserving this season. He was another one in that Tier 2 fight you spoke about. Grandpa, can he knock Grandpa out, though, of qualifying? Yes, he can. Now Polo God is at risk, and Polo God is down on the time. Red Fire comes across the line, and he's out, just barely. So Polo God, by the skin of his teeth in his return for McLaren, is barely through, and Red Fire for Haas is barely out.
Red Fire just misses out by 1.18 seconds there, and Groggers just manages to get himself in as well. I mean, literally the gap between Groggers and Paulo, 14 milliseconds, and when you said that Paulo wasn't improving, maybe something happened to him on his final lap, but Grandpa, super unfortunate, invalidates the time that he had. What kind of time was he going to have if it didn't invalidate? A 27.8. That's what he would have had, which would have put him around 9th if it was valid.
Yeah. Very true. And that's around where Florian went, his teammate. So, track evolution, something we're going to be watching. Red Fire, we're on board with his car now, entering the pit lane in the moment because he is out of qualifying. So it's funny because he switched from McLaren to Haas, and the McLaren is the one who barely gets in, and he's in a Haas and he's barely out. 4 different teams inside the top 4 in this qualifying session. Cookie leads Korsman, only 2 drivers in the 26s, and then you see the other drivers behind that. Florian, maybe the big shock of Q1, maybe the big disappointment of Q1 being Polo God, being that far off the pace for McLaren, off the teammate of Korsman. But we must remind you that he's just come back to this game, only did 3 hours of practice, and that's probably the only practice he's had in the last 2 to 3 months, and he's learning no ABS, so that will be the big thing for him come race time. Out as well as Hunted, who didn't get a lap in, obviously had to serve the qualifying ban for coming in late and being alone. Shanghai, Grandpa, Red Fire, the other ones knocked out as well in that relegation zone, and potentially joining us for the race tonight is Molly, unless George finds another driver. We'll find out who is through into Q3 from this session. Last week, the ones eliminated were Minako, Gecko, Formula Cringe, Red Fire, and Shanghai. None of those drivers will be eliminated tonight. 5 different drivers will be eliminated in this qualifying session as we head for Q2.
All right, sorry about that. I had a phone call that I had to take that I had to do.
All good. All good.
Yeah, Q2 now. This is gonna be fun.
It must be interesting in terms of this track, because I want to go over it for just a moment. I have the circuit layout right in front of me on my computer. 1 through 3 is a tricky section for battling because you got to give room in those areas. Could be an easy place to spin if you overcook the traction. Turn 4 through 12, the walls are close. Track limits, an area you don't really want to go side by side through. We've seen it end in a lot of horror. We did see what happened into turn 4 in the race that got canceled here. But yeah, then you have 13 through 18, which ends up getting tricky on track limits. And again, the walls are close, could easily pick up damage. Another section tricky for track limits and really battling as well. You have 19 through 21, which is a DRS straight. Heavy braking into 22, where 22 through 24, that right side curb could be tricky for track limits. You could go into the walls there. Battling, it all gets tight, so everyone has to find their way either single file or go double wide and just be super careful still. And then 25 through 27 is basically the DRS zone where everyone loves to play tactics, and we'll find out if that happens tonight. I'm going to give this one to you to talk about on this lap throughout the full way. How about the Chiller, who has not had a podium in round 2 of RPL since the 2nd season of this league, and he gets close to that wall right there.
Yeah, he's hanging out. He's getting really close to the wall as he navigates through the S section. I mean, this S section can really catch you off guard if you're not careful with your track limits. Wow! My goodness. He just had a little kiss to the wall and just got extremely loose. But the Chiller manages to keep it together out of 12. Now into basically Jetta's spoon corner, I just call it that. Now getting up to the gear. Up to the 7th gear into the next chicane. Some of these corners I know I'm gonna be butchering on wrong on them. Looks like he's working his way through 18 and 19 now in that DRS, navigating through the twists and turns. I mean, there's not many really straightaways that you can just have like simple straights. You need to go a little bit left, a little bit right, all that fun stuff. Now into the next DRS zone. Flying his way down into the final corner, heavy braking into turn 27. And it looks like there's his teammate right ahead. Is he getting a little help on the slipstream? I don't don't think he
Little.
is, as Cookie is just starting off his lap. The Chiller benchmark 28.0, just a hair above 28 flat. But I think if he didn't have that little kiss in the wall in turn number 9, I think he would have been a little bit. He would have gotten at least a couple of tenths more.
Yeah, I agree with that. And he had just so many slides with the rear where he had to just barely hang on to it. I mean, we saw the big one here where Cookie's about to come through soon as 27.8 for Josh. Here's Cookie now coming through. He can just ride the curbs a little more compared to the Chiller. 27.4 for Korsman. We saw 26.7 at the top of the board for Q1. What's it going to look like in Q2 where some of these guys are going to use used tires? Now Cookie comes through this tricky narrow section where in PSGL/WOR, I believe it was, either one of those big leagues, there was a pile up in that section. You hope to avoid that tonight as Cookie comes through, applies DRS, 7th gear. He's going to rev it out to go to 8th gear. He's below halfway on the battery, and it is a 59.8. That's nearly a second faster than the drivers we've rode on board with so far through that section, as Cookie is purple to that second sector. It's looking good so far. So this first lap, as last week, similar to this week, would make him safe if he can just come across the line and do just fine. Don't pull it Max Verstappen did. He's going to get a little sideways, though. Looks to clunk the wall just a little, but only enough to keep going in a straight direction. He does keep going in a straight direction and straight to the top of the board with a 27.0. 3/10 slower still than Q1.
Yeah, 27.0, not a bad time at all from Cookie. Korsman sitting second with that 27.4. Looks like some more cars are getting their way through and starting on some finishing laps. Looks like next up is going to be, I think it's, it looks like it's Paulo. He's the next one.
Oh,
for
lap, yeah.
a time lap. Just finishing up sector 2, getting into sector 3 now.
Oh, wait,
As
there's a
he-
collision. There's a collision, I think, into the pit lane between Korsman, Jacob, and there was an AlphaTauri ghosting through the Alpine. I just caught the end of that. Maybe it wasn't an AlphaTauri, but it was definitely contact either with Jacob or whoever was in front of that coming in, because whoever it was ghosted through Jacob right there. So maybe avoiding the collision due to ghosting or some sort of collision, but that McLaren, though, had no front wing of Korsman.
And that's going to be quite interesting.
Find out if there's
A little talk and dynamic between between the Alpine Academy drivers, just to see what happened between them in that regard. Let me just take a peek.
all should be fine now, I think. I don't think it was anything too big, but it was very weird because whoever was in front of Jacob just ghosted through him, and I saw the McLaren with a front wing gone, which was Korsman. Either he had it on his in lap, or he had it right there into the pit lane with the contact. I don't see anything on incidents that showed contact, but it could have been him trying to avoid contact with the other drivers. 10 drivers have set laps. Titan. Cam comes through the S section now. Again, we saw the Chiller slide through here. Cam goes a little wide and invalidates. Man, this circuit can really bite at you sometimes, and we just saw that happen there with Cam.
Yeah, I mean, literally, Jeddah is a track you do not want to mess around with. Literally, if you don't know what you're doing and you are not careful, this track will tear you apart if you don't do it right. And Cam is just unfortunate. He invalidated. Just had to invite Wavy back because he just wanted to leave in the session. Anyway, while you were talking about with Cam a little bit ago, I just checked in last season's qualifying for this track. The pole time last season was a 26-1 set by Scyther in the Ferrari. That was the pole last season. So it'll be interesting to see if anyone will get close to
Yeah.
last season's pole time.
Jacob comes through turn 1. You don't want to go into the orange curb, but you want to be near the curbs. This curb you definitely want to be on. Turn 3 right here. Now to turn 4. He takes a line toward the left and then a line toward the right where he arcs the corner and now rides that curb, which is completely fine to ride, but these next curbs can be tricky. You don't want to be on them too much. You see, just barely on that curb there. The left side as well with that curb. That one, you don't want to get onto it. Your car will just plant itself and go straight. 3/10 up on the time. He had a first lap which was absolutely terrible, and really it looked like it was a lap that he originally pushed on and backed off on. So now it comes through. About to be the sector split in a little bit of a moment. He had a little bit of a moment there. Clunks the wall. Keeps going though. What's this lap going to be looking like for Jacob, who makes his return tonight? We spoke about Abu Dhabi with the last time he made a start there, got the season ban, came back, got signed to Alpine, and is racing for the first time since then tonight. He's purple, and he's up by 3 seconds. So now this would still keep him 10th, but he's got to find time in that last sector compared to this first lap in order to improve any places. Now, turn 27, the heavy braking zone. He absolutely sends it in there. And now, on corner exit, here he comes. DRS going to be applied. Up the gears he goes. What's it going to be like coming to the line for Jacob? He will go 3rd fastest. Good return so far.
Yeah, Jacob is really showing his stride in that Alpine, putting it 3rd fastest so far for Q2. I believe if it's right, he was in the top 6 after Q1. So I would possibly say Jacob, I would not be surprised. You definitely would by the time Q3 comes around. I would not be surprised seeing him in the top 5 at all. He'll be in the top 5 in Q2. After Q3, I mean. But speaking about with Q2, I know you didn't mention it, but I might as well get mine out of the way. I'm probably gonna make my predictions on who is gonna be knocked out of Q2. I'm not sure if Wavy rejoined, but if he doesn't get back in time, he's gonna get knocked out because of his AI car. But as for those to be knocked out of Q number 2. I'm gonna say Florian, Groggers. Oh wait, not Florian. Groggers. Yeah, Groggers. Both Alfa Romeos of Serge and Cam. They're just gonna just barely miss out.
You include Polo yet?
I think Paulo might possibly get knocked out.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna say Wavy. I think Florian's gonna pull off an upset and he'll get through in Q3 in that AlphaTauri.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't get through last week. He got either blocked or something happened there in the last round. I don't remember what it was. But, off at turn 1 there is a McLaren. That's Polo. Polo has had a malfunction there in the first couple of corners. I don't think he hit the wall, but I think he locked up coming out of the pit lane. A very rare occurrence there for Polo. The Chillers backed off on that lap he was on, so we're going to go to the next driver starting lap, which is Bourbon, who makes his first start of the season. He was not here last week. I won't give many predictions until Q3, but I mentioned Polo because I do think he will be out for McLaren. That mistake right there, I think, kind of showed why. Learning no ABS, it's not going to come automatically. It comes throughout time, and I think that's going to be shown once again. In fact, I will mention, though, in terms of Polo, you know, it's crazy to think how all these times ago Bourbon's in the wall. Bourbon's out. Oh, turn 4 has just bit somebody, and Bourbon was the first one that it knocked out of qualifying. Oh boy. I'll finish up what I'm saying there about Polo quickly before we get to laps, because everyone's coming across the line now to start one. I engineered him in this race in Season 5, which is crazy to think about, and his last race, Season 7, Round 6 in Tier 1. I engineered him throughout a long time in RPL, and F1 Driver was part of it too at the time. It's crazy to think how during that time period, You know, I was watching you commentate by yourself. Now I'm commentating here with you. It's just crazy how times have changed like that. Now I'm commentating with you and with Polo here for the first time. So, yeah, I'm blessed for that opportunity. By the way, I'll show no more Polo God bias, but I do think he'll be out. That did get close between Florian and whoever that was right there in the Aston Martin. I saw that.
I think that was. I think that was. That was Barney. That was Barney that Florian had a little close encounter with. But I don't think Florian got affected too much. However, Florian might be facing trouble himself because apparently on his outlap he got in the way of Josh, who was on his time lap. So it was noted by the team principal of Ferrari, Groggers. So I'm thinking maybe Groggers was on board with Josh, or they were together in a party and Josh complained of it. And Floyd, Jesus, Floyd P5 right now, and Josh goes P2.
Wavy is on a lap now. So is the Aston Martin of Barney. We'll watch Barney. Next across the line is Groggers for Haas. The Mercedes across the line for TB. So everyone gets in their final laps. I'll go through Sector 1 with Barney, and then we'll switch to the drivers' finishing laps. De Chiller comes through and goes fastest. Barney coming through turn 4 where Bourbon crashed out. Bourbon is officially out of the session. It's not going to be...
gave up on his lap.
He's out. So he's another one who's out. Barney slid there through turn 4. We'll see if he's improving on this lap or not. We'll click over to the Mercedes coming through. Barney's not improving currently, but he still could be safe. And now Fake TB's crashed out. Groggers is also in the wall. Groggers has collided with, I believe, Fake TB right there. Yes, he has. No front wing.
Oh my God.
His teammate, Lewis Piper, comes across the line as Groggers gets disqualified. Lewis Piper goes third fastest. Everybody is finding time here in this qualifying session. We could still see some surprises. Knocked out as Cam comes across the line. It is going to be Q3 for him. He got points in his last start at Abu Dhabi at the end of the last season. Wavy could knock Barney out, and he's going to be out himself. So, Wavy out again in Q2, just like Abu Dhabi. And he's joined by Searles for Alfa Romeo, who got through barely to Q3 last week. Bourbon, who crashed out. Polo, who couldn't get through with a mistake. And Groggers, who was in, but disqualified himself after that happening. And realistically, I mean, I can't say he would have been in, but it would have been between Barney, Wavy, and him, though, realistically, if he did not have that collision with Fake TB, because we're going to have only 9 drivers be able to complete a lap here in qualifying because of Fake TB's crash out, which still would have set him through.
Yeah. So I'm just looking at the driver's chat now. TB is livid at Groggers' 40 incident, and Groggers' response is that he has no excuse for it. He can only apologize for it, and he went off. He said that he went off and paying attention. So Groggers must have went off at somewhere where they collided and just wasn't paying attention to where TB was. And also possibly when you said about Paulo in turn number 2 coming out of the pit lane, I also reading in here he went off over there because he thinks he may have accidentally impeded De Chiller's lap, the start of De Chiller's lap.
Red Fire wasn't happy with him either. So I'm looking on TB's stream now about this incident. Groggers is off there, comes back on from the left side where Schumacher crashed and was in the racing line. That's what happened. Oh my goodness. And TB, he was that mad that he immediately clipped it. I'm just going to look at this one more time. So Groggers is off on the left side there where there's that runoff. And what he does is he comes back on. I think TB had a little time to react, but he didn't have enough time to react. And TB on that lap where he was, 9/10 down on the top? He was 4/10 up on the time. So he easily would have been through and improved. And yeah, he was not happy at all from that.
Yeah. I just watched the clip myself. on TB's YouTube, and oh my God.
All right.
He is not happy at all.
No, he's not. He The only time I think I've seen him madder than that, I think, was with the Luke incident. But elimination zone, Wavy, Surge, Bourbon, Polo, Groggers. It's crazy to think that two of them didn't get a lap and one of them disqualified themselves. I think Groggers did disqualify himself to try to maybe get one out of the way of the drivers, but two, maybe a lesser penalty from that. That does look very bad. You know, like, I see videos on YouTube all the time. Like, there's NFL videos, there's NASCAR videos. Even I've seen, I think, videos with the Premier League and other, you know, different sports where it's like, what were you doing moments? I think that would go in it. And Florian has retired from the session.
I'm wondering why he did that. Maybe is it possible? Maybe he felt guilty that he got in Josh's way, so maybe he just retired so he can just make up for it and just not.
He said,
I don't know. Maybe
said,
that's my theory.
Sorry, I accept the pen. So maybe. Barney Pole, trust the process. All right, yeah. Barney brings up a good point. Let's get the predictions in. The Chiller's lap was not faster than Q1 from Q2. But for Q3, I think it will be much faster. I think we're going for a 26-0, improving from last season on a pole time. I think the top three will be Cookie, Korsman. Cookie's going to get Red Bull's 5th straight pole in a row. Korsman second. And I'm going to go with Josh P3. I think Lewis Piper to Chiller could get there, but I don't see it happening. I think Josh is going to be P3, and simply due to this kind of fact. Ferrari's won the last 2 street circuit races. They've got a podium in 7 of the last 8, 9 night races. So why not continue the momentum, but in qualifying first? Because if you're wanting to do the same thing in the race, well, qualifying, you got to qualify well to be able to get there at least. You don't always have to, but this circuit especially.
As for what I think the pole time is going to be, I think it's actually going to be slightly slower than the pole time from last season. I'm going to say a 26.4 is going to be the pole time, and I'm going to do a slight expansion. I'm going to go through the top. I'm thinking it's going to be the top 5 when this is all said and done. I'm thinking pole, and I'm going different here. I think it's going to be the Chiller on pole, Cookie second, Korsman third, Josh 4th, and Jacob in 5th.
All right. Interesting. So Jacob comes through the S section. He's the first one on the lap. He's got the Red Bull following behind, and Jacob makes a mistake. Jacob, in the runoff, backs out of it and will get out of the way of the Red Bull, who is on a lap. That is the Chiller, who comes through the sector split. Purple, obviously, because no one's gone through it, but his teammate goes through it and changes that fastest sector time. The Chiller ended up returning to pole position again last season once, or sorry, it was 4 times. Once for Red Bull, though. Either way, you saw Jacob, who backed out there as well. He got his first pole at the circuit in Season 7. Now, or sorry, Season 8. You got the Chiller a 0.5 there through that section. Cookie looked to gone a little faster, I think. The Chiller's going to set the benchmark time. Similar to Season 8 as well, when Jacob got that first pole. We're only going to have 9 people in the session, but this time we're going to have 8 people set laps. So, the Chiller will be the first of those to cross the line. Where is he going to go? It is going to be a 27.9, the benchmark, but his teammate Cookie comes across the line now. Cookie is going to the 26 zeros already.
Are you serious?
Korsman, 26.6 on the first lap. Josh, coming in across the line now, is nowhere near. 27.2. Barney is next. He said he'd be on pole, but he's going to be 4th. At least faster than the Chiller's lap. Wow, where did Cookie come from? I mean, yes, he's been fast these sessions. Yes, he was going to be in front, but we did not think it was going to be that margin for sure.
I think he was just I think you were sandbagging a little bit in Q1, Q2, and then Q3 comes and he goes like, yeah, let's take the gloves off and let's put on a banger.
Lewis Piper, outlap now, starting this lap. He goes toward the right to try to find some time and set himself up for turn one already. Lewis Piper into turn one, locks up a little bit, but nothing too severe. You could hear those rear tires crunching. Now, penning to the inside for turn three. Turn 4, he claimed the victim with Bourbon. He made sure to go wide, did not claim himself in that wall that time. It may have cost him some time, but we'll see where this is. S section now. These 3 turns, which all come together like a magnet. Oh, he goes off there, makes a mistake, invalidates. Cam goes 4th fastest for Alfa Romeo.
Yeah. So Cam basically, I mean, Florian was putting himself in the top 4, top 5 in Q1 and Q2, and Cam's just like, yeah, I'll start doing, I'll find some inspiration and find some speed, and he definitely did.
Wow. Yeah. Jacob's now on track as well. He's on outlap. Oh, that got close. I was just about to say as well, it seems like a lot of the drivers have either gotten each other's way or got really close to some crashes. We saw one with already Gruggers and TB, but we've seen a lot of that tonight where drivers get close to that. We finally saw it happen at the end of Q2, but we have a lot of clips that are going to go to the Stewards Report based on qualifying alone already.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, literally qualifying itself, especially at a track like this, there's so many twists, so many turns. You don't know where people are going to be, where they're going to pop up. I mean, just pretty much most of these
blind corners.
You're going in. You're going in blind.
You really are. I mean, I thought Vegas was going to be blind for these drivers. It clearly wasn't that blind. Well, maybe with Q1's collision with Wavy and not y'all. All right, Jacob, now in a lap. I'll have you take it away in a little bit with this one, because you called Jacob's first ever pole. If he's going to get pole tonight, it may come from just this one lap, because if he comes back in the pit lane now, on that next lap, which will be the in lap, he won't be able to get back out in time. That's how much it is around the circuit in terms of time. Cookie did a good enough first sector to where Jacob's not really anywhere near it. Cookie said he couldn't really repeat that first sector. Here comes Jacob now through this tricky chicane. Small mistake there, lost a bit of time, but now he's going to deploy DRS. Battery going below 50 in just a moment. Sector split coming up. What's it going to look like? Driver's starting to come out on track, but it's a 0.0 for Jacob.
Yeah, Jacob just flying his way through in Sector 2. As he makes his way through Sector 3, hugging on that inside. DRS deploy, getting up to 207 into the braking zone of the final corner. See if he keeps it. Ooh, little wiggle on the exit. Comes down, and he's actually abandoned.
So he wants to maybe go for another one, but he has to go to the pit lane this time in order to get that lap done. Because he wouldn't have made it if he went back around.
Yeah, he's gonna have to have one more final gaps in order to get it done. And I'm thinking maybe a couple of those little mishaps, that's probably what cost him just some crucial tenths of a second. And literally, when it comes to some of these street circuit tracks, especially Jeddah, and then later on like Baku, Monaco, stuff like that, with those types of tracks, any tenth of a second is crucial for good positioning in the grid. Because with some of these tracks, it is really difficult to overtake due to some of the high racing action. And I mean, Jeddah's no exception. There's a couple of areas where you can overtake into DRS zones, but everywhere else, it is very tricky.
Darius had a struggling race last week after his lap 1 collision. He had a lot of criticism from other drivers that maybe he's not the right driver for that Red Bull seat. He's got something to prove because Cryptics a good friend of his, but just because you're a good friend of somebody's doesn't mean you have, all season to prove you have that seat. We saw Perez try to prove himself that he deserves that Red Bull seat throughout the second half of the season, and they're still keeping him for next year. However, the Chiller has an ultimatum, and we'll go over that ultimatum at some point. But now he comes to the first sector. Take it away, Titan.
And the Chiller working his way into the spoon section now as he heads down through to get into Sector 2. Working his way up to the gears, getting close to the 8th gear, working his way down to the tricky little chicane. Nice and easy. Heading his way through the switches and everything. DRS deployed wide open, flying down these little corners. Now into the fast chicane. Oh, just looked like he got a little bit of evilness from the car, but flying down on the inside. Let's see what he's got as he heads into the heavy braking zone, right around 206 into the braking zone. See if the car maintains stability. Looks like he does. Flying down the main straight, getting up to the gears, and across the line, the Chiller comes, and is only second fastest, 26.5.
That's where he should be. That's exactly what he was getting criticism for last week, for not being close enough to his teammate. 4/10 off. And Cookie said he can't improve that Sector 1. So you know what? Although Cookie's back out on track, even if Cookie does improve the lap or not, the Chiller did what he was supposed to. Now, Cookie comes through turn 1, 2, 3. A little wiggle right there. We'll see what it's like in terms of the sector improvement or sector decreasing with the time. How good was that first lap in the first sector for him? We're about to find out. He's coming through the final bits of the S's, maximizing everything he can, but he is down, or up, by 56 thousandths. I automatically assumed, maybe not the best to assume, because he did find time in that sector, even with a little bit of a wiggle through turn 2 and 3. You saw him wiggle the car right there, I guess, to try to find what line he wanted to go into this area. He's made a mistake. He's sliding. Does he continue the lap, though? It looks like he is for now, and now he's backed out of it. Now he's backed out of it. Checkered flag is waving, and everyone got to the line. Cam is in the wall. Cam is in the wall. And Cam is invalidated.
Oh my.
So next is Jacob. Jacob is the next one across the line. He's not done a lap yet. He's on a .0 in that middle sector. He's got Red Bulls in front of him. He's not going to go slipstream from them. But this either will determine if he stays 7th or if he goes up the order. Now, Jacob comes out of the final corner. He is going to use the white line to the advantage. Comes across the line to go 4th fastest. Jacob has been impressive on his return, and that return is going to be the second row for now. Cam coming through, not improving. Josh came through the second sector with Barney in front of that, who's also on a lap. Barney 7th, Josh 5th right now. Let's see who improves and who doesn't now.
Okay.
Final corner.
Cam just clocked the wall in the final corner. Oh! Barney just clocked the wall too!
Here he comes across the line. Is it enough for what could be near Jacob? No. Josh comes across the line to be the second row. Korsman's next. Who's improving? Korsman is second on that front row. Lewis Piper, can he say something? 3rd fastest. That's amazing for Lewis Piper. But Red Bull is going to take their 5th straight pole in a row, and it comes at the expense of Cookie, who is going to take Red Bull 76th all time, and for Cookie, it is going to be a 4th all time.
Oh, I mean, and literally, Cookie set this lap on his first lap as well. That's what makes it that strong. I mean, and another props is literally the Korsman getting himself in the second. He gave it his best, and also Lewis Piper putting it in the 3rd in the Mercedes, a very good showing for the Mercedes car, and just wow. I mean, it's just wow. That's what I could say.
Of course, man. He is starting second behind Cookie. Lewis Piper, the Chiller, Josh, 4 different teams in that top 5. Then you have Jacob and the rest of the grid behind that. Well, strategy here tonight looks to be a medium hard. A hard soft is possible, and soft medium is going to be your Hail Mary for tonight. Could it be possible? Well, we saw 2 drivers do it last week, and they ended up 1-2. The question becomes with a soft medium like that, though, is can you make it? You're going to be toward the puncture territory, but keep in mind, when you do pit, you lose 18 seconds in the pit stops, and you gain back 19% on that battery.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see as these guys are all getting themselves set up to figure out what strategies is going to be the best to go with. Uh, just looking at the race director, I see all compounds right now playing a factor, but I think that's going to change most likely.
Barney's mentioning the race is in daytime. I think it transitions to nighttime throughout, but it's going to be fully dark toward the end rather than, kind of starting that way. So a little bit different on conditions.
It's similar to
Drivers have
Abu
adapt.
Dhabi, last I knew.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not exactly the same, but I think with these current conditions, it is. Cookies on the softs, polos on the softs, most of the drivers on the medium and the hards. And now we're just going to wait on the 5 red lights. Chat, get any final predictions in? Got 70 you watching. We had 10 at one point. Who's going to win in Jeddah? Round 2 of the season.
Well, if I had to take my prediction, I would probably say Cookie is a strong favorite to win, but I would also say probably don't count out Korsman, to Chiller, and Lewis Piper. I'd say one of those 4 have a capability of winning. If the other 3, other than Cookie, don't show a capability of putting on a challenge, saying Cookie winds up winning, I would say expect those 3 to be fighting off for the podium.
Yeah, you got a fair point there. Just trying to get confirmation to Chiller and Groggers because they're speaking about a potential restart, and I'm trying to figure out why. They've had a little debate on it. I want to see why. I think the conversation we've had about this...
It's because there's no second Ferrari. That's why.
Yeah. And here's the thing about it. Because Serge, I believe, wants to sort... Or had the idea of sorting out the cars, and apparently 3 people couldn't join as well, so that may be why too. Because you saw Wavy join back in late, there was 2 people who left the session after that apparently, but did Chiller retire from the session? I thought he left. That's interesting. Oh yeah, so apparently 3 people can't join.
When you leave, it automatically boots you out of the race first, then you leave.
Yeah, I see. Yeah. I mean, it happened to KVS, I believe, last week, which is why he didn't get a lap in. I think it was him. Might have been him. Yeah, I think it might have been. Yeah, it was. So we are going to restart. Stay with us while this happens. While that is the case, we have not gone over any driver standings or constructor standings. Cookie obviously leads Scyther by 6 points. He's not here. Jack is 3rd. He's not here. Korsman is here, though, but he's 13 points back. He just finished off the podium last week. Red Bull and McLaren are tied at the top. Then you have Mercedes and Ferrari, 3rd and 4th. Also, if you're still wanting to tune into some racing this weekend, make sure you tune in for Formula Endurance tomorrow in Britain, and then next week for Tier 2, we're in Canada, and we're in Australia for F1, which is going to be the last race of 2023 in RPL. As for the first ever race of 2023, you want to take a guess who won that one, Titan? Titan?
Yeah.
You want to take a guess at who won that one? The first race of 2023? Both tiers, by the way. Well, actually, I should say all tiers considered, because it was tier 2 first.
Owen?
No, it was ads for Alpine in tier 2.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. I believe that's Alpine's last tier 2 went to the state. Okay, Ditchler, you're telling me to join off profile, but you gotta invite one of the commentators first, therefore we can help. You want to keep playing a little bit of trivia before we get going? Or no? Do you want, what do you want to do with that? I'm kind of interested to keep going with this. Just a little.
I don't know. I
interested.
mean,
Up to you.
you're good at figuring that out. So
I mean, some of the stuff I got right in front of me too, so it works perfect. I'll help get the invites. I'm sure you will as well too. While we do that, which you see on screen right now, I mentioned the Chiller's last podium in round 2 was back in season 2, and that was at Bahrain. Do you know who joined him on the podium? Want to take a guess?
let's see.
That's,
So
it's tough.
The Chiller, last person who joined him on the podium.
The Chiller last time he was on the podium in round 2, specifically round 2, it was at Bahrain. And I'm asking who had joined him on the podium. The Chiller was second that race.
Oh Lord.
I got it right in front of me, by the way. I got it right in front of me. It's gonna be fun when you find out who it is.
Oh boy. Now my mind's just blank. My mind's just going all over because I'm trying to get some of the guys in and stuff.
You're all good. Got 3 people left to get in. We have a Ferrari. We have who else? We have an Alfa Romeo, and we have an AlphaTauri. So it should be
Okay, so
Grandpa
that
and
means-
Reese.
Okay,
I'll
so
get
that's so
Grandpa.
it's Gerard. So it's Gerard, Reese, and
I got Reese through, I think, here. Let me just make sure I do. Since I
Gerard and Reese.
Ooh,
That's all that's missing.
Yep, I got both them. Since I got both them, you want to have any guess at that now?
Okay, so
The
Round
Chiller,
2, the
season
Chiller.
2, Bahrain. Who joined him on that podium? Last time he got a podium in round 2 of the season.
Luke.
Luke's the only one on that podium, so it was a 2-man podium.
Okay, so Luke was on that podium.
No, he wasn't though. He wasn't. Luke wasn't, by the way.
Oh, it wasn't
I'm-
Luke. Oh,
Keep guessing. It wasn't Luke, but I thought you were just only mentioning Luke, so I was like 2-man podium. Whoa. 2 other drivers. 2 big names in this league. I'll put it that way. I'll keep it at that. I'm not giving any more hints. I'll let you guess one more time though.
Oh.
Who you think?
two big names in this league.
Yep.
I'm gonna say Will. Maybe Will was one of them.
Who's your other guess?
Reese.
Reese was in Racing Tier 1 at that time.
Oh.
Here's the answers. Owen, 11-time podium sitter for Ferrari, was 3rd.
Yep.
And the winner of that race? Joe Loke, who
Yeah.
recently won that Aston Martin award or whatever you want to call it. I don't know the exact name of it, but yeah. It was nice to see how, he's accomplished a lot of things since, I must say. Yeah, that should be interesting.
I'm not sure what speaking about with Joe Logan, I'm not sure what he is gonna be up to because I actually just sent him a Discord DM finding out what's next for him. Is he gonna be going for another year of a GB3 or or did a team wind up so a team in Formula 3 wind up seeing enough interest to call him up to F3?
That's what I'm interested to see. And that's it's crazy because we have, you know, drivers who've got far. We had HX4K, who's now in esports, win in the first ever season of RPL, and Joe Loku recently won an RPL recently a season 7 in the last ever France race we did there, which is crazy to think. He's now got where he's got. So yeah. Reese is the last one to join. Once he joins, he'll either be either Ferrari or Alfa Romeo, I'm hearing. One more trivia question since we have got a little bit of time. Let's see. What else am I going to go with here? Okay, so here is some more recent trivia that may help work out here. Season 7 was the first time that we had a full Saudi Arabia race in RPL. It was also round 2. Who won and who was on the podium? In season
7, round 2. You broke up on a chunk of it on my end.
Saudi Arabia, season 7. Who joined? Or who joined? Who was on the podium for that one? Season 7, Saudi, round 2.
I know Scyther was the winner of that race. I remember
Correct.
that pretty
For
dang
Red Bull.
well.
Yep.
I also, I know that he wasn't on the podium, but there was an Alpha Tauri that finished 4th in that race, which really shocked me.
Maybe Florian could do that tonight if we have a crazy race in store. I don't know.
Yeah.
He's had a podium before.
Let's see. Season 7.
2 Ferraris. I'll give you that. I won't say who, but 2 Ferraris.
Was Maxwell on that podium? I know he was
Yep,
Ferrari
he was
at that time.
He was 3rd.
Maxwell?
Yep.
I think
was
Max
second.
was he on that?
Yes, he was. Max was 3rd. Who was 2nd?
Oh boy.
That's what you're missing. You're missing the middleman.
I know it wasn't TB. TB didn't until Canada. So I remember that.
This is fun.
Oh.
It's like taunting you with it.
Oh, Luke. Luke was
Yes.
second.
Yep.
For a second.
All right. We are just waiting on Reese. Reese needs to get his butt in here.
Anna's just gonna go slightly off topic. Are
Go ahead.
you into baseball?
No. Hate baseball.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Then
Sorry to those of you who got
then
disappointed.
you won't find the little breaking news story I just found like 30 minutes ago. Found interesting.
Alrighty then.
All right. Well, Cam's now in the Ferrari now.
Well, hopefully we can have Reese hit a home run into this lobby because he's the one we're missing. Come on, Reese. Join, please. Cam switches over to Ferrari. We're going to make sure Cam's last now.
I guess Reese isn't coming.
Game's not working.
His F123 is not working at all.
Oh boy. All right, we got the signal to go. But Cam is starting last because he's in Ferrari, so that's going to knock him down the order. And we also have everyone else behind that moving up a place.
That's super unfortunate. Reese getting a shot for Ferrari, and now it's gone because his game just won't work. I mean, when it comes to recent F1 games, they have a love-hate relationship. I mean, Monza last season, he got royally screwed with that one, and now it's screwing him again with this one.
Yeah. I mean, the first one was very weird because that was just plain internet.
Yeah.
Okay, the
I don't
carbon
know
line
how
starting
many
to run
viewers are
low.
watching the Twitch stream right now, but for Reese, why don't we put an F in the chat for Reese?
I think we should just put rain puddles in the chat because of Monza. I hope it doesn't. I hope whoever is hosting, which I believe is the Chiller, I hope he put it on clear weather because if we have rain puddles, then I think Reese might be traumatized after that one. I really feel bad for the guy because you know what? He really actually could have got a chance in Ferrari tonight because Molly was missing. He's the first call up to Ferrari, and after that, you know, he would have got his chance and he would have shown. I mean, he would have been at the back of the grid anyway because of it, like Cam is now. But he would have been able to show really what he could do in that Ferrari, and you know, I maybe put the fight to Korsman, maybe even put the fight to Cookie. I don't know. He didn't do this race last season.
This is
Zatsy,
gonna
good to see
get
you
quite
watching.
interesting.
Yeah, well, speaking of RPL trivia, I'll just mention one more thing. I'll get that out of the way now. Zatsy won second ever race of RPL. Well, this is the second race of season 10. And later on this season, it is the 200th race of the season. Or sorry, 200th race of the season. 200th race all time. We'll get some more jokes out later. I keep messing up. One thing I won't mess up though is the strategy this time. Drivers are either going to go the revert strategy of hard to medium or medium hard, or they'll go hard soft as a Hail Mary, but even a bigger Hail Mary would be soft mediums or medium soft. We won't see it as likely compared to the main strategies. You can do it, but you're risking puncture territory though, and your tires will be absolutely shot at the end of these stints. So likely won't see it. Have to be careful on it. No rain expected for this one tonight, but it is much more darker this time around. We will be getting a full night race in this one. 9 finishers last season, 11 DNFs. Here come the 5 red lights. 5 red lights, come on, and they're out, and away we go for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix in Season 10. They get off the line quite well. Cookie's got an astonishing start, already ahead before Turn 1. Here's Korsman battling for second place with Lewis Piper he gets ahead of. Side by side for fourth, and now we have Shanghai down the order a little bit from that start. Polo got as well. Hunted, who had to start at the back. Now you have side by side for Turn 4. Jacob and Florian making contact. Luckily, Florian didn't crash there as he had to back out. TB trying to get some places as he had already started further back than he wanted to. Florian using the runoff. Florian comes back on. He comes on almost in the path of Wavy. Now, Jacob's got a 5-second penalty.
Yeah, I was just watching it. Apparently Jacob was shoved. He was battling Florian and was shoved up the track, and he overtook off of the line. And Jacob couldn't see a chance to give the position back because Florian was losing position. Oh, he got a crash! Gerardus crashed!
Grandpa is out of this race! Red Fire's involved, and that's a safety car. We've seen a safety car happen in 14 of the last 23 races. Make it 15 of 24. That's over half.
Yeah, Red Fire has lost his entire wing. I'm not sure what happened with Grandpa, but he was in the thick of it at the back with Polo and the Williams pairs, and just chaos ensued. And Florian wound up losing a few positions. He tried to gain a couple positions, but then lost a few. Because when he went a little wide, he got stuck on the curb, and the curb was just a grind rail for him. And off he goes. It looks like Cam did get damaged from it. No, he does not. He just gets off of the sauce immediately. Oh no, he's on the sauce. But yeah, Hunted and Red Fire are in, and Hunted is getting his wing replaced.
So is Red Fire as well, serving a 5-second penalty. And Lewis Piper's out! Lewis Piper has crashed under the safety car!
Oh my god!
Oh my goodness, 2 big names already in trouble. Cam for Ferrari, Lewis Piper for Mercedes, and 2 retirements already with 2 laps in.
And Polo has wing damage on the left side.
Oh, What is going on? What in the world?
Word.
Yeah, you could send the clip in, Grandpa, because Cam had said it was drivers running into him on a straight. That's what happened there. We caught the tail end of it. I mean, we saw Grandpa's DNF on the stream, but wow. My goodness. 4 places for TB. He needed that start. 3 for Bourbon. 4 for Shanghai. 4 for Cam, too. And 2 for George. Florian was the one who bogged down at the start. He obviously had to use the runoff a couple of times, and he's down 2 as well. My goodness.
Oh, I'm wondering what the heck happened with Lewis Piper, boy. You just said that this is the second time in the last week it's happened.
That is just absolutely treacherous. Grandpa sent me the clip. You can look on Game DVR for it, by the way, I believe. I'm checking now. Actually, it's not Game DVR. I'll send it to you. I want to see what happened here to kind of understand. I mean, we'll get a replay for it on the race highlights, but... Florian, what's happened here? There's something with Wavy and Florian, I guess. I don't know. Of course, when I look off stream, or look off camera, what happens? Something happens. So I'm looking at the replay now. Cam is behind Grandpa as of the current moment. And he's about to be middle of Red Fire and Florian. This clip is absolutely amazing with its loading time. Florian is side-by-side with George. Grandpa is side-by-side with Red Fire. Red Fire backed out. He was side-by-side then with Cam. This clip is amazing with its loading time. Just means I'll be able to see the incident in slow-mo because of it. So, Florian made contact with George. It was Grandpa who checked up, got sideways, and ran into Cam, and then out of the race, and corrected it into the wall. That's the best way I could describe that one.
Yeah, I'm just watching the replay now on Grandpa's end.
I'm watching Lewis Piper's now, too. Safety car will be in this lap, by the way, for those of you wondering. Cam pitted an extra time. No, either he pitted an extra time or fell back there. Polo pitted as well. Lewis Piper, under the safety car, just spun. He simply just spun. That is very odd. He lost it in the second right of that, or sorry, the first right of those 2 rights in the S's. So that's what happened. All right, good to know. At least what happened. Safety car is in. The drivers will lead him. Or safety car will lead itself into the pit lane. Drivers will lead him off. Here we go.
We'll just have to
Cookie
wait and
will lead
see
it.
what is going to happen here. I'm on board with Korsman. See how he reacts to Cookie. Well, Hunter just got a penalty for clunking into his teammate. Cookie takes off in the final corner. And we're back underway here for Jeddah. As Korsman trying to keep in tune with Cookie as they head down to turn number 1. It looks like we got a couple of fights on our hands behind us. Looks like TB was trying to sneak a peek on Josh to go for 4th place.
We already have the same amount of DNFs, I believe, as last week, which is crazy to think about. Especially considering Tier 2 had a clean race at Texas with no DNFs earlier in Tier 2. Korsman goes for a little slide there, following Cookie. TB was behind Josh right there, looking for a move earlier on. He's now closer. Bourbon goes off. Bourbon almost ran into Wavy re-entering. And Bourbon will keep 9th, but he's got Wavy for company now because of that slide he had. And Hunted, by the way, into the pit lane to serve that penalty, and now under the hard tires.
I think Hunter got damaged from that collision with Shanghai. And with Bourbon, he had the exact same thing that Florian had in lap 1. He got stuck on the grind, basically the rail curb of turn 10. That's why he wound up going off. And basically when he rejoined, he wanted to get out he went into the other runoff of turn 12, so he wouldn't be in the way of anyone behind him.
TB is mounting a charge on Josh now. TB's looking to get up the order after his qualifying crash with Groggers. He's won the last 2 Jetta races, and you could see why after that start, as Cam and Groggers and Shanghai, 3-car battle here at the final corner. Cam gets both them on those soft tires, maximizing everything it can. He's probably on the same strategy as Josh, but he would be pitting a little bit later, and the good thing about that is he's basically where he would be at without the strategy that he's pulled off, but now he can gain more places to try to fetch his way up the field now, going on to the soft tires, making himself in a 2-stop now.
Yeah, just taking a look
And he
at
can
the
make it to
tires
the end.
now. Yeah, I'm just taking
Not
a look at
here
the
with the
tires
soft
now,
spot on the
and
tires.
yeah, a couple of people have already done their stops, like Redfire, Paulo, Hunted, and Cam, but everyone else is still staying around on the tires that they're on. Josh is the only one on a soft compound tires. That's going to be quite interesting to say the least. George, Bourbon, Barney, and Jacob, they're on the hard compound tires, and everyone else is on mediums.
TB right behind Josh, not close enough for a move. DeChiller is also near Korsman, and Cam gets Wavy. Cam is ahead of Wavy now, and down the order Groggers goes. I think he was maybe letting Shanghai go, maybe? I don't know. He's re-overtook Red Fire now. In front of that, we got Cam behind Bourbon. Cam going by Bourbon. He's now up to 9th. So Cam trying to make a charge here. Remember, his only race with Ferrari, he ended up getting a podium in Zandvoort, and he was on pole position. Florian trying to get by Barney now. TB has finally got Josh there in the run to turn 1. Florian still has Barney for company charging back. Can't make the move. Groggers has Shanghai for company. A little 4-car battle here. Inside line for him. Diving it down. Shanghai's going to remain wheel to wheel. Groggers is out ahead though. Now Red Fire has an opportunity to make himself comfortable to get by Shanghai. But he can't do it now on the run to turn 4. He's going to have to wait a little longer.
Yeah, Shanghai and Groggers having a brawl heading into turn 1. Redfire gave Shanghai a little tap as Shanghai goes a little bit off in turn 12. That gives Redfire the opportunity to make a move. And here comes Paulo as well. And Shanghai falls down to 15th after that little mistake, losing 2 positions after a little mistake in that one corner.
Here we go. 2nd place. The Chiller backed off right there, but Korsman has not got the pace it looks like right now in this race. At the very start, he's trailing Cookie by 3 seconds, and you saw the Chiller back off right there. That's going to bring TB into the mix, and now, does the Chiller go for it? He might be waiting for DRS here at turn 27. You saw the DRS games. It was Korsman backing out. Who's going to get the DRS here down to turn 1? It is Korsman. So he's got Korsman and TB, the Chiller does, right behind him. And now, here we go to turn 1. TB looking out, making the move, down the inside, he's through. So the Chiller did time that a little better than what we maybe thought. Polo also in a battle here for 12th. Red Fire, Groggers splitting him 3 wide. Now on the run to turn 1. Both Haas teammates side by side. Red Fire comes out ahead. Polo is ahead of Shanghai now. And a little accordion effect there at the 3rd corner. And now Wavy's out. Wavy's out of this race. And that's at turn 4 where Bourbon crashed in qualifying. No safety car.
Yeah, where Wavy crashed out, crazily enough, I think it was last season or season 8 at Jeddah, where Wavy crashed. Crazily enough, that is the exact same corner where Cookie crashed, but the more insane part was that unfortunately, Wavy, where he crashed, he was sitting in 11th, but Cookie, at that time when that crash happened, Cookie was in P3.
That's crazy to think about. Wavy said he net-coded a barrier. TB got by to Chiller. We had Cam getting by Barney. Barney wants back at it. Here he comes, outside line. Is he going to remain with DRS for turn 20 or turn 1 after turn 27? No, it will be Cam's turn now. The Chiller also gets TB. A little bit of DRSing off of one another. Doesn't look like they're going to catch Cookie as they keep losing time to him. Korsman's losing so much time to where he's got Josh for company. Cam and Barney dueling it out here in the run of turn 1. Barney can't get by. And now the two teammates are back at it for Haas, but Groggers will elect to stay behind Redfire.
Yeah, as you were mentioning that, I was just on board. I was just on board with Florian, who was trying to sneak a peek, trying to make a move on Jacob in turn 1, but just couldn't get enough. Just couldn't get enough to make it stick. But Jacob holding his own right now in the 6th place spot, even though he has that penalty that he has to serve later on. But Florian sitting in 7th place is not bad at all for him in the AlphaTauri.
Polo's made a mistake. He lost some time there to Shanghai, and notably so. He was in that battle ahead, and now Shanghai is almost out of DRS, and Polo is about to be out of DRS himself, so a costly mistake could result in him not even having a chance for points, because that's the train to be in if you want to have a chance for points. Korsman's caught back up to TB. DRS there, and now Shanghai is out. Shanghai has caused the 2nd safety car of this race. That is at that tricky Mickey Mouse chicane.
And Polo has no wings, so I think Polo and Shanghai came together.
Cookie's in. So is the Chiller.
Will double stack.
Ferrari will double stack too. This is perfect what Cam did because he gained places from that. And Korsman sped unless he got the glitch where you cut the pit lane and end up getting a penalty. And you saw the bollard right there into the pit lane just absolutely going everywhere into the air. And because of pit stops, by the way, we have Groggers P2.
Yeah, Groggers is the only one that opted to stay out. And I guess it was a slight double stack, to be fair, because the Chiller is behind TB.
Yeah. Trying to think who else double stacked. Jacob double stacked, or no, sorry, not Jacob. Cam double stacked with Josh. Excuse me. I thought there was an Alpine in front of that. He did double stack with Bourbon, but nothing too effective. Polo double stacked with Korsman. I don't really think there was many others. We have 4 different teams out of this race. 3 of them from the same academy, though.
Other than the Chiller, who had who got double stacked. The Ferraris, I mean, I was gonna say they probably would have double stacked, but I don't think they did because Cam is still in the same position that he was prior. I mean, he did gain 1 because Jacob had to serve that 5-second, but I mean, hey, that's the case there. And what the heck?
Josh must have saw Florian was an AI. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
there it is.
that's a little lag.
Yeah, it's lag.
Florian was an AI, maybe if it wasn't lag.
It's gotta be AI. Because Florian was ahead of Josh.
Yeah, no, I know, and I'm pretty sure because of Florian going in AI, he got ahead of Josh. Because I think actually it was Josh who was in front of him. Because I know there was at least a car splitting him and Cam. I could be wrong, though. You might be right. I don't know. I did say it was nighttime, but... Let's see, I mean... This is kind of what it looks like outside my house right now with a little more sun. It gets dark earlier around this time. It doesn't feel like it's fully night. Korsman's coming in. Probably to serve the 5-second and go to new tires. He almost spun there at the pit lane entrance. Korsman, who was running 2nd... at one point, is now serving the 5-second and changing to medium tires. Medium tires can make it to the end of this race from this point, but you've got to consider the track position where he's at, because you could argue he's on the better tires than Cookie, but if it's not going to be anything better than 2nd, then is this strategy worth it from him?
Okay, I'm one up having to disregard what I just said a little bit ago about with the Florian Josh thing. Josh was actually ahead of Florian. I guess it was lag that put Josh behind Florian. and Florian just wanted giving it back to him. So that's probably what happened. So I apologize in advance
No
for
worries.
getting that mixed up.
No worries.
I mean,
So,
I'm looking
safety
at the
car should be
I'm
on
looking
this
at the groups right now as for the positions gained. I mean, I know George, he's going to lose a few of his spots, but he's gained 11 spots since the start. Cam's gained 11 spots since the start, and he did have to pit again to serve that penalty. But Korsman is currently the biggest loss right now with 11 positions lost.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be maybe the only hope at this point for McLaren to get 16 races in a row with points. I'm not seeing the safety car coming yet, or at least the notification for it. Now it says it. Got Alpine with Jacob running in the points. They've been in the points for 9 of their last 11 races. Haunted still could score points for Williams. They've had 11 points in their last 4. So some teams doing some really good things. Others, we'll find out if they end up getting their way back up there. Cam an early contender for driver of the day. Florian an early one. TB an early one. We'll figure out what happens. But first, the safety car restart happens. The race leader is Cookie, as he is backing them up a lot. You can see the safety car into the pit lane now, and Cookie accelerates now. Here he is, back on the gas, restart back underway. He's using all that battery and trying to get out in front. You see Groggers has really backed them up right there, and absolutely in no man's land. De Chiller, a 2-second gap now to Cookie, and he had to let George go there because something happened before the line where the Chiller overtook him before the start finish, and you're not allowed to do that. And Groggers is being an absolute hazard.
Yeah, what happened was that the Chiller overtook both PB and Groggers before the start finish line, so he had to relinquish both of those spots or face a penalty for doing that. And that has actually bit the Chiller in the back, because now he is all the way down in 6th, and he's still got charged. Oh! We got a collision and a PSC. Oh, double DNF.
Hunted's involved. Jacob's involved. That got close between De Chiller, Cam, and Groggers. I'm sure De Chiller's not too happy because you saw Groggers just absolutely backing him up right there at the line. 1.4 second gap. Either he didn't react to Cookie, the tires were bad, or he did it intentionally. And TB Josh got away from it. Florian got to P4 after that. And after our 6th retirement from this race, and almost halfway, it must be said, with that restart, could be seeing another one after those either tactics or mistakes.
Yeah. Mishaps and a half here as both Alpines no wings, and we have a double DNF with Hunted and Polo both out, and just chaos and a half as TB, George, Korsman, they're all heading into the pits. Urban and Jacob in as well. My goodness. And this is our 3rd safety car now of the event.
Did I mention Polo was out of this race? He's out of this race. He had a collision with Hunted. Not going to send it in, Hunted says. That return is not good for him, but now we're down to 12 runners, which means we have 6 DNFs from this event. 1 DNS as well, which was Reese. Double Williams
we don't have
DNF.
a repeat of last season.
Please don't. I
Last
know. I
season
hear you
we
on
had
that one.
9 finishers and 11 DNFs. Let's just hope we don't repeat this.
If we get 5 more DNFs, we have 7 finishers, I believe. That'd go back to Baku Tier 1. And I feel like because Polo's back, which was his last race, we're seeing the same thing happen. I don't know. Yeah, Cookie made a point. This is why we don't race Jeddah. It makes a bad look for the league. I really don't like to say that, but it really does. I like the track. I think it's a really nice track, but for some reason, even some of the best drivers can't handle it. And, you know, we had, interestingly enough, we had last season a double Williams DNF, a double Alfa Romeo DNF, and a double Alpine DNF. And also, by the way, if I've not said another double DNF, it's Haas as well, who are also on that list. The only double DNF we've had tonight is Williams. So that's unfortunate. At least the track's getting to nighttime quicker. Oh, man.
Wow. I'm just looking at the chat. There's just so much talk going on. Apparently, I guess the Alpines came together and Paulo panicked. So I guess that's what happened. I guess Bourbon and Jacob had a collision.
That's when no ABS
Probably
does
have to
see
find out a little bit more about that for sure.
Yeah,
I'll be back in just a
figure it
second.
out as well. All right. Well, you got to remember as well, if you were a part of the stream action last season or just a part of this race in general, 10th place DNF'd. And we keep saying, oh yeah, 11 DNFs, 9 finishers. Well, 10th place does not get points if you DNF. You got to remember that. And that was Blue Goggy. I must say, based on track position and the way that restart went, obviously the chiller got held up. Cam is now P4. Florian's on for a really good result for AlphaTauri, which is the team he got his only podium with in this tier. So we shall find out if he repeats the same thing. He's got the track position to do so. He's got great pace, but I think he's got a lot more of a challenge if he wants to accomplish that. Got 3 big cars out of this race, and I'd say Aston Martin is a big car because they're up there on that leaderboard in pace. So, that restart from Groggers was fishy. I'm not suggesting anything, but I said it's either one of 3 things. The old tires got him a bad restart, and he was waiting to pit, which he did now. He's 9th. Or it was on purpose. Or he just didn't react to Cookie behind there, and or not behind there, behind Cookie and his restart, and he didn't get going. Had 3 safety cars in this race. I will say with Florian being on the podium right now, yes, it would be a shock. And we had a shock podium last season. You could say Mali was a shock podium in an Aston Martin. It just, with the way that race went, I think it was more of a shock than something that was meant to happen. But,
Okay.
anyways,
So
Josh pulling alongside,
I got
and
some more
Cookie leads the way
information.
in. All right.
I got some more information. I found out what occurred. It was mentioned by Jacob and it was backed up by Korsman. Apparently, Bourbon did a dive bomb onto Barney, and they made contact, which resulted in them Bourbon losing grip, and it resulted in Bourbon brake checking Jacob, and that's causing a mess there.
All right, here we go. That is the Haas wiggling, weaving, and trying to warm up the tires. That is Red Fire Tiger, who's on harder tires and forces off TB, and TB cuts the corner. Well, that could be appealed, maybe. Groggers as well in a little battle with, it looked like Bourbon on the restart, but Red Fire gets packed past TB. Red Fire struggling through the first sector. You can see what those hards are doing. This is why TB and the others pitted for mediums and newer tires. DRS trained from 2nd to 6th once that's enabled, but now TB uses a bit of battery, trying to get past Red Fire. Korsman's there as well. Korsman almost gets pinched into the wall, and now they're gonna split Red Fire 3 wide. It's TB getting out ahead. What a move right there from both of them to get by, and what smart thinking they had.
Yeah, I just saw it on Groggers' POV. Looked like Red Fire got a little loose, and he did make contact with TB. That's why TB went off and cut the corner. I think TB could get that penalty taken off for sure. And it looks like Jacob just cleared Groggers to get himself into the 10th place spot. And something's happened to Florian. He just lost 2 spots.
Cam into Chiller, breezed past him. And now, here is the Chiller following behind as more Shrill speed. Cam's using the battery to cover it off. So now, Ferrari are back up there. And with McLaren having pulled out of this race, Korsman in the points, Scyther obviously not here for them. surely that tie with Red Bull for the points lead is going to change. And Ferrari are on a good chance to really take second place in the Constructors' Championship.
Yeah, Ferrari's sitting nice and pretty with that second and third right now. The Chiller hanging in fourth right now. Florian really showing his stuff right now in that AlphaTauri. He's sitting in P5 at the moment. I mean, literally so far in regards to driver today, two strong candidates right now. It's Cam in the Ferrari and Florian in the AlphaTauri.
Usually I discredit it for driver of the day purposes with a Ferrari like that, because you're at the back of the grid. You're expected to be up here from qualifying in the back of the grid, or you made a qualifying mistake. But he was forced to start at the very back, and someone did that Ferrari at the last second. It was him. Bourbon goes by Groggers. Red Fire also trading spots with Jacob, so Alpine and Haas doing it with both cars this time. And yeah, he had started at the back through no fault of his own through this one, and he qualified well before that in an Alfa Romeo and switched cars, and you know, you don't have a lot to prepare for a Ferrari, and he's right behind the teammate of Josh. So yeah, driver of the day performance so far to him easily for me. Barney and TB traded spots, DRS enabled, so you'll see that rear wing opened for a little extra time. Before it's opened, you're going to have TB attacking Florian, outside line for turn number 1. Florian's going to defend for the inside line. Looked like they touched for just a moment. TB touches back with him at turn 2. Groggers with a penalty in the pit lane, but TB takes 5th place, and he's back up here in the front of the grid. And Groggers now out of this race in the pit lane.
Yeah, it looks like Groggers has decided to just opt out and call it from the event. So that leaves it down to 11 drivers left for this race now. I mean, just hope we don't have it. Once we have if another 2 more retirements happen, we will tie the amount of people left that we had in last season. We had 9 finishers last season at this track. Let's just hope we don't have that happen again.
Oh, Korsman says that, of course, man, you're not gonna pinch me like that. I'm gonna breeze past Payu with DRS enabled. How about that for Korsman? Gets the place. He's got Barney challenging back. He's got DRS still himself on Florian up in front of that. You have side by side into turn 27. It's Korsman going to get out ahead. Both of them going to have DRS down to turn 1, but they're all chasing De Chiller at the front of this train. And now the 2 Ferraris are dueling it out into turn 1. Cam gets by easily. Slingshot move. Nice one there. And the rest of the field tucks back in behind if they were having a look there into turn 1.
Yeah, right now 3.2 seconds ahead of Cam, and I think Cam was just let loose to try to possibly make an attempt to try to reel Cookie in. We'll just have to wait and see as these laps progress. TB up into 4th right now. Yes, the penalty thing is still on there on his name, but we know for sure that could possibly be removed as Korsman gives Florian a little tap as he's trying to find his way to go for the 6th place spot.
Yeah, Korsman is really just trying to get by after being held up through Groggers earlier, and now at the very back of the field in the restart with obviously TB's battle he had before getting up here, and now he's really needing to get this place, and he did get it now, but at the expense of that, though, you have the drivers behind him, both Barney and Florian, having DRS on him now. So, realistically, he has a chance to catch back up to De Chiller, but he's got to get within that 1 second gap, though. If he can get within that margin, he can get in this race for a podium, which Josh is now going to play DRS games now with the teammate of Cam. Cam has to tuck back in behind. Josh gets the place. Korsman's able to hold on for 6th place on the main straight, but 11 runners still left in this race. Everyone looks to have figured it out.
Very much so indeed, but I mean with the Ferraris doing a bit of a switch rounds in their positioning, it is giving Cookie a stronger advantage over them. but it also brings TB closer. He is all over the back of Cam, and this for the bottom step of the podium.
It's
We
now
got
caught
DRS train.
DRS train behind that, yeah. That's what it did with that battling. You think they're trying to slipstream off each other and DRS off each other, but it's not worked to perfection. Here's Cam giving up third place to TB. I don't think he meant to do that. Maybe a bit of miscommunication with Josh there, but they know because of Cookie's gap, the race is for second place, and now Cam electing to go to the outside line on TB. What does Josh do in terms of the DRS mind games for turn 27 on the run to turn 1? We have 2x2 about to happen. Here's TB looking at the inside line, 3 wide before turn 1. TB gets both Ferraris, but now behind that, Korsman with the chiller. You can see late braking and contact almost being made with Josh and TB. They keep it clean, though, as they exit turn 3. Side by side with both Ferraris. To Chiller out ahead. And now back to single file.
I will be honest, that is probably the overtake of the race in that regard. That's definitely one for the highlight reel. TB going to absolute war with the 2 Ferraris and just keep his composure in check and took that second place. It's some good valuable points for TB.
Well, he does have that penalty, and Cookie can make the rest of the way on the hards, so it's not like these guys are battling for what's going to be the race lead. They only know it's going to be the race lead unless Cookie slips up and makes a mistake. He said prior to this weekend that Jeddah is a really good circuit for him on pace, but not the best on keeping it out of the walls. He's done that so far, keeping out of the walls this weekend. Now, a hungry herd of cars follow into turn 27. TB brakes to allow Cam to not be the one with DRS. He's going to be the lone one without DRS. TB now gets the DRS, so he's working against the Ferraris. You've got Josh alongside. We're about to see 3 abreast again. Here we go. TB, Josh, and Cam on the main straight. It's Josh going to get out ahead. Cam still has the inside line. Now it's TB's inside line for turn 3, and he gets out ahead. Florian as well is also at the back of this train. His academy teammate, the Chiller, had to look up the outside of Cam. Couldn't make anything of it.
Wow, this is getting really good here. I mean, these guys are just brawling. All these guys are just brawling for the same piece of real estate here. And literally, as we are at the front, looking up towards the front, Cookie is just sitting nice and comfortable in that lead, 7.2 seconds ahead of Josh, and that lead is growing.
You'd think he'd come back and wait for these guys a little bit, maybe a 2-second gap to watch this little battle right here, because it's just trading spots at the single moment. We might see Korsman get closer to Chiller. He was gaining the gap. Not close enough for a move here. We're going to see some moves, though, into turn 27 again. Josh leads the pack of cars, TB behind. They're both on the medium tires. Barney and Josh are the ones at risk to make it to the end of this race. The rest of the ones, like Jacob and TB on newer tires in the mediums, they can. And no one backing up for DRS that time, but Korsman is sneaking a peek on the Chiller. There's company behind that with Barney and Florian at the back of the DRS train. Now TB looks to the outside. Easy move on Josh. Gets the pass done. Also, for the overtake, you have Korsman on the inside of the Chiller. Wheel to wheel at turn 1. They rub. And the Chiller has to use the inside curb. This battle could cost them DRS. But Korsman is out in front of them.
Korsman thought of trying to sneaking a peek in turn 27, had a little bit of rear slip, but kept it going, got the win for the move in turn number 1. The Chiller truck fighting back in 2 and on the end in 3, but just couldn't seem to get back ahead. Korsman up to 5th. Very good stuff for him as he is just basically reclawing some of the stuff that he lost after those instances he was involved in earlier on in the race.
Scyther was second to Cookie last week. If Cam is second to Cookie this week, he ends up making an American 1-2 for the second week in a row. Usually we're used to seeing a Britain 1-2 or a European 1-2 or a European podium. Not the case this time, as I believe into the chicane right there, Josh didn't have DRS. He has DRS on TB this time. They're not anywhere close to remove this lap. The only ones really close for a move is DeChiller and Korsman, because DeChiller has that much more speed on the straights compared to Korsman.
Yeah, absolutely. We're getting towards the end of this now. 4 laps left to go. And I'm just wondering what other excitement is going to be shown between 2nd to 8th. I'm wondering what excitement is gonna be thrown at us right at the end. I'm probably expecting at least a couple of these cars are gonna have a last lap dash to the finish for a position.
Yeah, I'm impressed. I'm impressed that these guys are still keeping us involved. And I mean involved because, you know, I think we'd be a little zoned out if there was no DRS train. And speaking of that DRS train, it looks like Florian's fallen off a little bit to where he's going to be the one outside DRS this time. Josh is in DRS as of now from TB. Detection point was just right there. He's in it. But, yeah. Actually, I think he missed it. He did miss the DRS that time. He was out of it at the last moment.
Yeah, right at the last second. I think Josh was at least 100th off from the DRS, but he does have it this time. And also, I just noticed it myself. Oh, contact!
Oh! Korsman and Cam are the ones to lose out.
Just watched, I think Korsman saw an opening, went for the move, and the Cam pinched him off, or did Korsman, did he see an opportunity? When he saw an opportunity, was the space not enough? But, oh man, that's gonna hurt. That is going to hurt both of them.
Yeah, well, if anyone's in puncture territory, it's Barney and Josh. We spoke about it earlier. They're the ones at risk, so we'll be watching them and what they do. Barney has fallen off the DRS train. He's now vulnerable to Korsman and Cam, who lost out there. So now DeChiller has a chance to attack for 2nd place and 3rd with TB and Josh right there. Man.
Yeah. I was about to say a little bit ago was just before the Korsman and Cam came together. TB was actually gaining ground on Cookie. He was almost 6/10 gaining 6/10 on him, but that got interrupted from Korsman and Cam getting together, and Florian is taking advantage of the 2 damaged cars because Florian has overtaken Cam. Now has to deal with the damaged Korsman to get himself into 6th place, and I've said it before, but Florian in the Alpha Tauri is really showing his stride in what is essentially pretty much the worst car in the game.
I agree.
So Cam's giving Florian a shove.
Yeah, we'll see how that works out. Cam is damaged. Florian has Korsman in front of him who has damage. Korsman's just trying to hang on here with that damage. And we'll see how he does through that section with this damage. It's hurting him. It's hurting him a lot.
I'm betting Florian's upset having to be held up by Korsman, but he finally does get by him into turn 13.
Yeah, I think right now, driver of the day, I'd give it to Cookie, Barney, or Florian. They're the ones making a name for themselves. We're on the penultimate lap of this race. We still have a DRS train for 2nd to 4th, 6th to 8th. All positions here. Red Fire looks to go for the fastest lap. Let's see who currently has it. It's Cookie. He's got a fastest lap in 4 of his last 8 races. So we'll see if he does so again, or if Red Fire claims that fastest lap. So risk versus reward. TB as a penalty. The risk is, will he get it appealed? Reward would be the podium. And he could be losing that to Josh and DeChiller right now as Florian and Korsman trade once again. Cookie starts the final lap of this race. A Red Bull won the first 2 rounds last season, could be another one this season, and this time it could be Cookie, but now Josh is trying to muscle past TB. He's gaining. We've had a ding-dong battle throughout this race with those guys. Here's another one behind that. Florian dives it down the inside, late on the brakes, but Korsman goes way too deep and has to concede the place. It's now Florian's 6th place, and Jacob is still right there for a potential P7 or P8 with these guys both having damage.
Yeah, that got pretty dicey there, but Florian back up into 6th place again. I mean, literally for Florian, that is 8 points going on to his name and credit as Cam just gets himself a penalty, and because of their damage,
Oh, punt.
Jacob just get Cam a bump and run. That was beautiful. That was a little bit silly, but a little bit beautiful. Shane and ask.
Josh still chases after TB for 2nd place in this race. We'll have to flick back to that in a little bit of a moment. He's got DRS on TB. We'll see what happens. But Cookie is coming into turn 27 and now comes out of turn 27.
Boy, here we go.
Absolute domination for a 2nd week in a row. His 3rd win in RPL. Cookie conquers Saudi Arabia. And to the line, Josh, TB. TB's going to get Josh for 2nd place. But currently, with the penalties, it will be 4th for TB as Josh and DeChiller claim the podium.
Yeah, coming out of that final corner, Josh had the rear snap off on him just a bit, and he wound up tapping the right rear TB, but they both kept it together. It was a good showing right at the end between Josh and DeChiller. I mean, and also Florian up to 6th place. Good effort for him to get into 6th place. Barney, as well as you mentioned, 5th place for him, and Jacob want to get past Korsman and Cam to get himself into 7th. Very good showing for that Alpine. And Bourbon finishing 10th.
Came across the line last of our runners who finished. He is 11th, but he did not take the fastest lap there over Cookie. And now we talk about who should get driver of the day. I'm going to say Florian. I think Barney's close there as well. He put on a good performance, but I'm giving it to Florian. He deserves it. He said, well, I'm going to prove you something wrong in that AlphaTauri. We said AlphaTauri's the worst lineup because we don't know much about them. Well, they've got points and some other teams don't. So, Florian, P7 right there, I think it was. P6 around the area, I think it was P6, P7. You know, not everybody finished, but he stayed up there and maintained track position and kept his car clean. I think he deserves it. Easy for me right there, considering how he's shown his return to Tier 1 this weekend is a deserving one.
Yeah, I'm completely agreeing with you on Florian for driver today. I completely agree with you there. I mean, Florian in qualifying, he was staunchingly good. He was in the top 10 in both Q1 and in Q2. He had to retire in Q3. We'll have to figure out why he did that, but he hung around in the top, basically in the middle of that top 10 the entire race. Handled it himself pretty strongly against some of the people around, like Korsman, Josh, DeChiller, stuff, guys like that. He kept his composure in what I said earlier is one of the worst cars in the game, and he's brought it home for P6. Very good stuff for him, and I believe that driver for today, Florian, is well deserved.
There are your final results you just saw on the screen. The champagne you saw, absolutely in the air for most of the drivers on that podium. Some more happy than others about their races. DeChiller on the podium again for Red Bull. Josh back on the podium for Ferrari. He was on the podium in Abu Dhabi. Wasn't last week after his DNF. Florian ended up P6. Barney P5, a very good result from him. His best result here, I believe. Also, Jacob in that return P7. Some very good things as we're about to conclude the stream to look forward to into next week at Australia. Any final thoughts?
I mean, the race was really wild to say the least. I mean, we had quite a few close calls in qualifying. We had a massive incident in qualifying between Groggers and TB, so um, that's going to be looked at by the stewards, and possibly Groggers will be facing a decent sized penalty for that. But yeah, some great racing action between TB and both Ferraris. There were collisions and mishaps all around, and yeah, and I'm looking at the RPL driver chat, and a lot of people are saying that Jeddah should be banned.
Season 5 maybe gave us a preview. All right. So, tomorrow is Formula Endurance. We're at Silverstone for the first round of that, of a 12-round season for a brand new tier of RPL. Same name on the Twitch. You still be able to tune in. Won't do race highlights for it though. That's the only difference, making it similar to F2 in that aspect, where it's not the main tier. Anyone can compete in it. You have next week Tier 2 action resumes at Canada, and F1 action resumes at Australia. We'll find out what happens. It was the season opener last season, in fact, Australia was. But this time around, it's round 3. Either way, you have Ryan Searles, Titan Ironwolf, your 2 commentators from tonight, signing off RPL Formula 1. Make sure you tune into us next time, whenever that may be. And until next time, good night, and we'll see you then.